I know.
I really can tell though. Your face is like leaning out,
Yeah. That's the one place I feel like it's really obvious is at the ear, which is nice. It's the thing that people see the most of.
right? I'm really rocking with this V-neck we got on too. I think I'm gonna pull down my shirt to look more like you.
Oh yeah. Gotta represent.
All right, guys. So for everyone watching this video, you're probably wondering why I'm just on here complimenting Blake. We tend to do that as an aside, but I want to give some insight into what my check-in process looks like with clients, and I also want to highlight some of Blake's really good progress and accomplishments thus far. Because, dude, you have been killing it. Yeah, let's start off by telling them like how much weight you've lost. We've been working together for what? This is like the third month now.
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, almost like
Yeah.
3 full months.
Yeah. Been a good 3 months, that's for sure.
Yeah, dude. Tell them
Um,
about it.
yeah, so I started off at 222 pounds. And as of this morning, I'm at 196. So that's a good chunk of change down. And at least I think what 10% down overall, I think, from the original body weight at least. So it's been a pretty good slow burn. Personally, I have trouble sometimes just with the how weight loss works. It's kind of like, me, I want it to be something really quick and really fast. And honestly, this is really quick, but it's still good to like, it is a slower burn than I expected because I'm not really used to the weight loss. I've never really done this in general before. So it's slower than I expected, but it's still been really good. And I'm glad it's slower than really fast. It's been a lot easier to kind of like keep up with different types of workouts, different types of meal prep, that kind of stuff, than just like diving into it really fast. And David's been really great at just kind of like easing me into it as someone who's so unexperienced with weight loss and just, the workout world in general, honestly. And very good at keeping it at easy, slow pace and slowly adding some more and more things to make that process much, much quicker and easier and better to comprehend and also add more things to it, which has been really, really helpful. So it
Hell
guided
yeah,
me in the right direction.
dude. That's crazy to hear that it's been 10%. Like the fact that I just hadn't thought of that, but your dad, like you're that's right.
Yeah.
And I was like, shit, are we going too fast? Because you don't want to like you don't really want to you want to take it in bite-sized chunks. Like 10%, that's a lot. And that's something to be proud of, man.
Yeah.
I do feel like our pacing is good though. In terms of like rates of weight loss and all that technical stuff. I don't want to necessarily make this the most technical thing, but also it's just cool to see like how far we've come because I think what was that like junior year of high school or something where we went and worked out at the Y together. You got so sore that like you couldn't
Yeah.
move, and then you're just like, dude, fuck this, I'm out.
Yeah. Always go too hard, too fast. I've never been good at pacing myself, which is why
Yeah,
you're here to help.
and that is the tough part. Like a lot of people struggle with that. So we'll definitely hit on that as well. But yeah, man, let's do our little check-in portion first.
For sure.
Now that we've talked about some of your good accomplishments. So yeah, man, tell me about the week. What's been up?
We've been good. Obviously, we're doing the more intensive lifting, the full body lifts and stuff, rather than mostly body weight, cardio, whatnot. So doing cardio, but more focusing on the actual weights. Been good. I've obviously seen an increase in muscle mass just over the couple weeks we've been doing just the lifting itself. Especially shoulders. That's the one thing that we talked about before, wanting to improve on more. I've definitely seen like my shoulders getting a little bit bigger and being able to lift heavier weights with the exercises, which have been good. Um, Overall, good. I mean, everything you've been giving me has been spot on. There are a few like still the Bulgarian split squats are still tough. Still not my favorite, but they're still good. They give it a burn, which is still nice. But all the ones you've at least given me have been. I've seen the changes in my body as I'm doing them, and either being able to do more reps, do more weight, that kind of stuff. It's been really nice to see that. That raised slowly, obviously. But the lifting has been really good, honestly. It's been really nice.
Good, man. Yeah, so we started it off kind of like all body weight. And I remember at the
Mhm.
time, what was this? Was this like July that we went and grabbed dinner?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And you kind of like expressed like you weren't the most confident in like the lifting at that point. So I was like, yeah, man, we'll
Yeah.
start it off easy, started off with some body weight stuff. And then we'll progressively just up the ante a little bit every week, every month.
Yeah.
And I think you've done like a really good job of just like being understanding and accepting of those changes. And I think even back then with like the body weight program that I gave you, like it was a good mix of some strength movements, some like fat loss, more metabolically demanding type movements.
Yeah.
We had those mountain climbers, like the running in place, butt kicks, jumping jacks. And now
It's
we've kind
tough
of,
stuff.
yeah, man, those were brutal workouts. Like thinking back to then, was there anything that like surprised you of like, oh, this is really hard, or like, oh, I'm feeling really good about this?
Yeah. I mean, as someone who's never been a like habitual exercising person, I've never been someone who does that. It was tough to get started. Like I had the motivation to keep trucking along, but like I mean, at 222, which isn't a ton of weight, but for me, it was hard to like do those things at that weight. It was really tough and demanding going through those circuits. Um, but it was also super encouraging to know, hey, even though I'm not at the point I want to be with my body, I can still perform and do some things that might not be what I thought we'd be doing. But I was able to complete them, and it was a small sense of accomplishment that was really needed for me to have more motivation to continue. Because if I went straight into like full on lifting and wasn't lifting the weights I thought I could lift, I'd probably get super disappointed and discouraged and kind of like give up. But because we started off with things that like you obviously were spot on with the reps and the intensity, we're really good about that. Um, Allowing me to have small goals to accomplish that made me want to keep working out, want to keep improving and that kind of thing. And obviously every week slowly ramping it up a little bit, little by little, either more time or more reps allowed me to keep striving for, a better goal, which allowed me to keep fighting harder and harder, which is nice. So I'm glad we started off where we started off on, just because of that. But glad to see where I am now compared to then. A lot
Yeah,
much better.
it's crazy,
It's
man.
great.
Yeah, like I said, even just seeing you, I can really tell a difference. Um,
Oh yeah.
you mentioned the motivation. So to kind of like piggyback off of that last point that you made, I remember we had discussions where like motivation was super high this first couple weeks because I think with everybody that's losing weight in the first couple of weeks, you just tend to shed the weight a little easier, a little quicker. You see bigger decreases in the scale, and then it does kind of like
Exactly.
slow down, maybe not
Yeah.
necessarily flat plateau, but it definitely slows down. So how did we kind of like navigate that motivational component?
Yeah, for sure. I think the main thing was just like me personally, I'm very hard on myself. So if I slip up, it's really hard for me to like keep motivated. So I think the main thing was obviously you were always there every week to talk to kind of like keep my head on straight and to keep motivating me. You were telling me you're doing a good job, you're losing a good amount of weight. You were giving me tips and tricks on how to like do meal prep a little bit better. You were feeding me enough to keep me like striving for something more. And even though there were times, obviously, super motivated at the beginning, was really into it. Even now, I'm still super motivated, but there are dips here and there, obviously. But overall, I think honestly having the accountability of you as a coach has been really helpful in keeping me motivated to want to keep doing better. And also just a more intrinsic one of like, oh, I want to get healthy. Like my main goal is to be healthy for our future family. I want to stick around as much as I can. So getting healthy, getting fit is for that. So having that separate goal, a personal goal, and also having you as the accountability has been really helpful to kind of like keep me motivated on two fronts rather than just having one that's kind of like, you know, loosey goosey kind of thing. It's been nice to have someone to actually be like, hey, you're doing a good job. Let's keep it up, which has been more than helpful.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I love it. That's exactly what I wanted to hear. Thank you.
Oh yeah.
You have that
I
effect.
know. I'll touch on one more thing too. Sorry, what were you saying?
I said, you have that effect. You always tell me what I want to hear.
Oh yeah, I'm good. I know what to say.
You know your way with words.
Um, I'm a good wordsmith. But there is, I'm obviously with the motivation. I know this morning especially was a little tough on me. Obviously, like been doing really good. I've been meal prepping constantly, having the same dinners, not the same dinner, but like a good healthy dinner, good healthy lunch every day has been really nice and keeping me on. Even though we're at the point where it's kind of a slow down weight loss, still progressively, little by little, still losing. Today, obviously, not obviously, but the scale wasn't where I wanted to be this morning. I hadn't had the best meals yesterday, the day before, just because of just a crazy busy weekend. But had gained a pound or two, which isn't, a ton, but for someone like me who struggles with, keeping motivation and wanting to, constantly see progress was a little tough on me. So kind of just, I'm not sure, kind of like, I guess just kind of asking you, like, how do you see that? I know, help me remind myself, like, hey, we're doing still good progress, that kind of thing. Like, what do you have to say about that? I'm just kind of like curious to hear
Yeah.
your thoughts.
Yeah, man. No, it's a real thing. Like even I'll still have that kind of like oh shit moment where like I'm trying to think
Yeah.
the other week I've been hovering around like 190 lately, gaining some
Mhm.
weight ever since I finished up with that photo shoot deal. And then I saw
Right.
194 on the scale one morning. I'm like, what the fuck? Like I'm getting fat. I gotta chill. And
Where'd that come
um,
from?
right, yeah. And it's just part of life that you have to take the bumps along the road. And
Mhm.
like when you said like 1.8, I was like, okay, that's not that bad. Like we could easily remedy that. And in reality, like it probably is, you probably did put on a little bit of fat within that, but like it
Mhm.
probably is also just like the water that you're holding from consuming more carbs because you tend to hold more water when you're consuming well, or when you're storing glycogen, which is like the functional unit of carbs, I guess you could say. So like my
Yeah.
initial thought is like he'll burn that off easily, but how do you kind of compartmentalize that in your mental game? And I think
Mhm.
it's just we've had a couple instances where just like life gets crazy. You had some family things that you had to attend to a couple weeks back. This week it was work, but you've always shown that you can bounce back, and that when you do bounce back, you usually come back even farther. Um,
Yeah.
so so that's kind of like the way I would say for you, like because I do have the experience of like you came off the whole like what was it 2 weeks where you were dealing with some family things and everything was crazy, and you came back right back on track and you started killing it again. And I know work was super hectic this week. Couldn't get all the like even meal prepped, but you couldn't even get all the meal prepped meals in just because it was unfortunate with the
Yeah.
schedule. And that happens, man. We've all been there. So I think just like trusting that, you take this, you build on it, learn from it. Um, like one thing that I always try to do with my clients, and especially with you, is I give you one little like homework task to
Yeah.
work on each week. So like, what was it like a week or 2 weeks ago? It was like, let's try to get lunches prepped for this whole week. So one, you don't have to buy the like you were doing like the Subway option, which was pretty solid, but like one, you
Yeah.
know exactly what's going into these lunches. You can save some money and make sure that they're
Exactly.
dialed in nutritionally wise. And you've always been able to pull through and get those little like tasks done. And so that's how I think I'm just really confident that like, you saw this blip in the scale weight, not the end of the world,
Yeah.
but I know you'll be able to come back from it and just kind of like improve upon those little things that went wrong. And I'll be
Yeah,
done
for
after I
sure.
say this. So like maybe there was one instance this week where like, oh, like it was busy, but I could have done this better. Like the fact that I think you're able to be cognizant and recognize that, or for other people that potentially out there that are struggling to recognize those things, talking through it and coming to those solutions is key.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I appreciate the encouragement with obviously it's a blip, not that big of a deal. It's a small amount of weight gain. It's not like end of the world or I've really screwed up. I appreciate the encouragement in that. But also like I've said before, like, I'm not good at this stuff or not, I don't have a lot of knowledge. But you obviously, I mean, trained in it and do this for a living. Like you know so much more than I do. And you can help give me like pieces and bits and stuff. It's like, oh, this is like nothing. It's
Yeah.
nice to have you because you know all this stuff, you've been training this stuff. It's nice to have someone who actually knows. I have no idea. I'm just here for the ride, honestly.
Right.
But I appreciate
I
you're very knowledgeable, which is nice.
appreciate that, dude. Hyping me up over here. Um, so one
And
thing we
you got
mentioned,
me, I got to get you too.
right? I don't want to take too much of your time, man, but I kind of want to talk about like the specific X's and O's of what you've been doing because like, dude, your results have been really good for our time frame. So you mentioned you
Yeah.
started off with like a more general like fat loss, body weight routine, and now we did kind of like dial it in to be more weightlifting focused, putting on muscle, still doing cardio to burn off some fat, and we've tweaked some things here and there with that. But like, what are some of your like things that, I mean, you might not love it or enjoy it even, but what are some things like within the workouts that you've liked recently now that we've kind of shifted that focus?
For sure. I think, well, the main thing obviously is like seeing the weights I'm lifting has been really beneficial. It's like, oh, I can lift more than I thought I could right now. It's kind of like a good intrinsic reward in of itself. It's like, oh, this was easier than I thought it was. I can do more. Or, like what you think that was perfect. It's like I feel like I'm strong now, like physically, and like it's more of an intrinsic thing, obviously. It's like internally, I'm like, oh, I'm doing good. But the weights themselves and actually lifting, it's like this, I can see progress. I see and feel the progress by doing the things every other day we're doing Monday, Wednesday, Friday lifts. Seeing that has been the biggest thing, I think. I think the other thing too is obviously like I really like in the app that you use, it gives like a little video or you have a video ascribed to each workout to show the form. I've never been good at form. That's definitely one thing I really appreciate having that video there to kind of like show how to do it appropriately. And then also there's a little description underneath to kind of like give more to it. But having like the step by steps and like the actual like it's not super willy nilly. You have your tempos. You want this many seconds of this kind of movement. 1 second break in between, or do it as fast as you can, that kind of stuff. And also having the break times, like having it all broken down into actual like very specific orderly pieces has been really helpful for me to be like, okay, I have a regimen to stick to. Let's abide by this. And that gets me through it so much easier than just be like, oh, here's 10 workouts, go do these. Like I
Yeah.
like having the like set structure because that makes me feel like, oh, here's a goal. If I can do this, this lift and have like we usually have like 2 to 3 minutes break in between sets. If I can get it in like 1.5 minutes and still get the same amount of reps or whatever, like I'm like, oh, I'm progressing here. I'm not taking up more time. I'm able to reduce my resting points and actually be able to lift harder and faster. Like having that stuff though is really key to me, not knowing what I'm doing really well.
Hmm.
That's been a guideline and kind of like a track and outline to follow. That's been the biggest thing that's helped me the most and kind of like got me going lifting at least. So
Yeah, I think for your goals, that is like a completely good way to think about it. And another thing, just like to highlight another like learning breakthrough that you had, because I typically like to give like a rep range, right? And you'd
yeah.
say like sometimes you got discouraged. Like let's say I said 12 to 15 reps, and you'd be like, well, I kind of get
Mhm.
discouraged when I don't hit that 15. But I want to give you a
Yeah.
challenging weight. So like if your reps, maybe you get 15 on the first set, 13 on the second set, 12 on the last set. Like if you still gave it like adequate intensity and you said like, man, that was like my form stayed really good, but like I was working hard on that set. Then that is
Yeah.
like just as much of a win. And I feel like that's like a great workout tip for people in general too. So yeah, man, I just wanted to
Oh yeah.
highlight that because I feel like that was a good breakthrough for your like for your in workout aptitude.
Oh
But
yeah. That was a big lesson that you helped me with. That was a nice one. I like that a lot. That made me more confident too in lifting. It's like I don't have to strive for the best of the best. I do what feels good, and then it's all you can do. Don't overdo it. That's my biggest issue. So I appreciated
yeah,
that piece of knowledge.
yeah, man. So we'll wrap it up soon. But I remember last week I told you I was like, I think we gotta now that we've shifted some of the focus away from making the workouts so like cardio dependent. I said like let's try to prioritize doing a little bit more cardio, whether it's longer sessions or
Yeah.
more frequent sessions. So how did that go this week?
Doing good. So I know typically previous weeks I was doing a stationary bike, 20 minutes on the stationary bike on my off days, and then 15 minutes before the workouts on my lifting days. This week, I did 20 minutes before the workout days and 25 minutes on my off days. And I
Nice.
also increased the resistance of the bike, so it was much harder to pedal. And that was a good because before I was like, I'm not challenging myself enough. I felt, I was like, this is getting easier to do. This my endurance is getting better, and so I'm glad that you challenged me that way. You're like, hey, we should maybe up the cardio because we're doing lifting now, a little more heavily focused on lifting. So I'm glad you challenged me on that because I probably wouldn't have said anything because I'm just not. I don't think that way. So
Yeah.
the challenge, but I think it turned out really good. Like the cardio was much not like a thousand times difficult, but it was enough of a challenge to make it actually worthwhile because we were lacking the cardio from the actual lifts itself.
Hmm.
Um, went good overall. Like the increased resistance was nice, and the higher times was good. Trying to get more, rotations per minute too, trying to go faster than usual. Was really nice. I thought it went overall really good. And I think I'll slowly keep increasing the resistance probably as we keep going forward, just to add more challenge as I'm getting obviously better and better at the cardio stuff. And then maybe doing some more. I know beginning when we were starting off with the stationary bike, I was doing sprints, basically a minute of
Hmm.
hard, of slower. I've now like plateaued into a good middle range constantly for the whole time, which I couldn't do before. But maybe slowly start to increase that as well. Trying to do small things here and there to make it more difficult overall than try to like slam one category super hard.
Yeah.
So, but
No, that's
it's
a
been
good
going good.
That's a good point, dude. I like it. I think for this week, let's stick with the same type of cardio routine. Like just try to like master it this week.
Oh yeah,
And then we should throw in more of like those intervals and make it like a dedicated interval session the following week because that'll be like enough of a good challenge to keep pushing you. But yeah, man, let's see.
exactly.
I think let's in terms of thinking of a way that we can kind of like improve upon last week. The first thing that comes to mind is like nutrition. So like how does the work schedule look like? And if it is going to be another crazy week, what are we going to do to kind of like mitigate some of those issues that you ran into?
For sure. I think definitely being more prepared. Like work was crazy. Thankfully, I packed my lunch the night before. Usually, is what I do. It was mostly the end of the week where it was like, okay, work's wrapping up, and here's into the multiple things to do in the weekend for just like other stuff. Where like I wasn't as prepared or had things prepared. Like obviously, I have like the containers in the fridge of the things, but nothing was like put together and ready. So I think that if I realize I'm having a busy weekend of stuff, maybe like actually use the containers themselves and make the meals already ready to go to throw in the microwave and go, rather than like having to like take time from the day beforehand to like separate it out and put it into a bowl to microwave. Like instead of keeping it in their separate, like the ground beef goes in this container and the broccoli goes in
Yeah.
this container, actually do like let's have like five dedicated Tupperwares and actually make the meals in each one the right portions already so they're ready to go, rather than me wasting time or not being prepared enough to actually just go ahead and do it. So that's kind of like
Yeah.
probably a good goal.
Yeah, man, I like it. Okay, so what I want to have you do then is whenever you do cook, whether it's today or tomorrow, because I know some days or some weeks it changes, but send me a picture,
Mm-hmm.
just like text me a picture of a couple meal preps that are like fully locked and loaded and good to go. That should be a good little challenge
Yeah.
because we got the accountability of the picture.
Oh
But
yeah,
man,
that's the big thing.
yeah, yeah. But I did the same thing, like, and I'm so neurotic now. Like as I was meal prepping this morning, I literally cut the chicken up so I don't have to fucking cut it up like while I'm eating it that day. Like I just like get in a zone where I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna do everything. And that little bit of preparation just makes it go down that much easier. So like that's a good thing to identify. And like I'm glad you said that because I wouldn't have even thought to ask. But yeah, like you hit the nail on the head. Like stuff can get busy. Maybe your morning routine gets interrupted and you have to rush out the house. And then you're like, well, I couldn't bring my whole fridge with me, so like I don't have any meals today. But I like that. I like that
Yeah,
idea.
exactly.
Yeah, man, I like the idea and gives us something to work on this week for sure.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I like the small challenges. It keeps me going. More motivation.
Yeah,
Definitely
dude.
small, more
Yeah.
intensity every week. Good.
It makes it fun. It's like you're gamifying the situation. And dude, I know you're a gamer. You and me both. Huh?
Oh
Good
yeah.
times on the game. But
Oh
dude,
yeah.
I don't want to take much more time. We've been on here for like 25 minutes. So
Mhm.
just keep doing your thing, dude. You've been killing it. Like that is really good results. It's like the
Yeah.
the perfect rate of weight loss. From my opinion. We're at like basically 2 pounds a week ish, right? Maybe a little under, a little over some
Yeah.
weeks. But if you average it all out, that's like a sweet spot, I think, for a lot of people coming from the situation that you started out set. So yeah, man, I'm proud of
Yeah.
you, and I appreciate you hopping on this call to show the people what we've been working on.
Oh yeah. I appreciate the encouragement, man. You're always good at encouraging me, which is what I need mostly as someone, as a client and also as a friend. You're really good at just keeping me going and keeping my head
Yeah,
up, which is
man.
nice. That for sure.
Yeah,
So
and I get that from you too, dude. Like it goes both ways. So I appreciate all the kind words and the thoughts that you give, and It's always fun checking in with you. But yeah,
Yeah.
I guess I'll be posting this up. So appreciate you for helping me with the promo. And if you guys
Yeah,
do
of
have any
course.
further questions about like what Blake has done specifically, maybe you come from like a similar background where you want to lose about like 20. I think your final goal would be to lose like 30 pounds all in all, right? 30,
Yeah,
30,
at
30,
least
35. I don't know.
for
So
sure.
we,
Yeah, that's a good goal.
yeah. So if you guys have any like questions in regard to Blake's process or specific things that we've done beyond the details that we gave, always feel free to like leave a comment or shoot me a message. But yeah, always reach out too if you're in the market for coaching. That's kind of like the driving factor behind this call is to just put out what we're doing and show the people our success in prosperity.
Yeah, for sure.
But
Check him out. He's great. He's a great coach. Very good. I really
appreciate
appreciate
it.
him. So I recommend him 100%, 10 out of 10.
All right, guys. Thank you for watching. Always feel free to follow up if you need me.